rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
Right, man, mesmerizing. That's a webinar in itself. Tough act to follow, but thank you so much for everyone for being here. My name is P. Wade Ross, and I'm with Texas Small Farmers and Ranchers Community-Based Organization. So I'll be your moderator tonight. And we have just a few housekeeping items. One is turn off my phone. Just to let you know that everyone is automatically muted today, with the exception of the panelists that you see here. So please feel free to use the chat in the Q&A feature just below there. Also, just so you know, this recording is being recorded, and it will be dispersed out to everyone within the next day or two. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with Texas Small Farmers and Ranchers Community-Based Organization, we are a 501c3 that serves as a voice in education and an information outlet for historically underserved individuals and communities throughout Texas. So we do encourage you to visit our website at tsfrcbo.org. I'll be sure to put that at some point into the chat for you, and take a moment to look at our story, which is on our main screen there on the home screen. So to participate in any of our organization events, simply visit our site, and you can just either kind of peruse through the tools and trainings, or sign up for our weekly newsletter just to stay in the know on some of the information. And last but certainly not least, please don't keep us a secret if you are finding that some of these knowledge forms that we're giving and some of the events that we're printing you to are helpful to you. Please go tell a friend. We're trying to get the word out in our farming community out there. So with that said, let's shift gears a little bit. And tonight's featured panelists will be sharing with us. Each of these panelists have actually shared in knowledge forums that we've had over the past 6 months or so. This time around, we'll be using a little bit different format, roundtable format. So what I'll do is be asking questions, a couple questions to each panelist. And after each one of them have shared, we'll open it up for questions to all attendees. So feel free again to use the chat, the Q&A right below as we go through, just in case any questions pop up, and then we'll make sure that we get to those for sure. So to get things going, we're going to do a quick intro for each of the panelists. So panelists, do ask for you to do a quick wave. We do have a couple panelists that are on the phone or can't quite make it to a computer. I know we have a few at airports as well, so hopefully they can jump on. I know one of them just called me here, so unfortunately I couldn't take the call. But again, as I mentioned your name, just do a quick wave. We're going to start with LD Thomas Esquire. LD works as a solo practitioner in Dallas, Texas. His practice focuses on areas of estate planning, probate, real estate, and small business. And in 2020, the law office of LD Thomas LLC was named the best law firm in Black Dallas by Dallas Weekly. So congratulations there. And next we have Joshua Coleman from Farm Service Agency. Joshua serves as our state outreach coordinator here in Texas. And as coordinator, he is responsible for program planning, implementation, and development of policies and procedures. And you can regularly find Joshua out there on the presentation circuit, trying to make sure he gets that word out. So appreciate all you do there, Joshua. Keep up the good work. Next up, we have Tanisha. This year will be Tanisha Mitchell, I should say. Tanisha, this year will be her 25th year of service working with NRCS throughout Central Texas. And she currently serves as the district conservationist for Falls County, located in her hometown of Marlin, Texas. So glad you could be here with us, Tanisha. Tanisha has so many good nuggets to share, so I had to kind of taper her down a little bit because she's so excited to share so much good information there. And then next up, we have Justin Duckin, who is a sustainable ag specialist with National Center for Appropriate Technologies, also known as NCAT. Justin, his work focuses on organic farming practices with a niche in ethnic specialty crops and something that we all know about right now, drought mitigation. So glad to have you, Justin. Hopefully you could jump on. I know Justin just called me, so hopefully he's able to jump on. If not, I know he's got to jump on the airplane, but hopefully we can get him aboard. And then last but certainly not least, we have Felicia Bell. Felicia works also with NCAT, and she works as a sustainable ag specialist herself out of the Gulf States region. She's been there since about 2013. As the fourth generational farmer, Felicia is the founding member of RD and S Farm LLC, and through her many years of farming experience, she has learned many resources and inexpensive methods and solutions to help lessen costs and the burden of small farming. So glad to have you with us as well, Felicia. So that's our panelists. And let's see, Justin, are you on the line at all? I don't think Justin was able to make it. He's probably on my cell phone here. I can't call him. Oh well. How about you, Felicia? All right. Okay. Well, I guess that brings me to LD. LD,
I'm here.
you're first up. You're first up, and hopefully Justin and Felicia can jump on here. I know they're both traveling right now. So first question for you. It says, please share with us the one or two major ways we as attendees, as farmers, small farmers and landowners can benefit from reaching out to you and your organization.
Okay. Well, first of all, anyway, thank you so much for having me again. I'm just a huge fan of this organization, your parents, and everything they've done. It's so needed. So again, anytime I can show up for you guys, I will be here. I just want to make that very clear. Um, And so, as you said in my introduction, I do estate planning. And so, what I tell people is I help people plan for the unexpected and the inevitable. And I think looking at what I do in that manner, it's easy to see how I can help not only small farmers and ranchers, but anyone in life, right? So, if you have land, if you have a business, there are a couple of things that you have to consider. One, what would happen to that business if you suddenly left, or if you were incapacitated and you couldn't perform the daily duties of whatever it is that you do. And my business is the business of helping people plan for that. Right? So everybody hears estate planning, and a lot of times they think, well, that's a will, that's a trust, that sort of thing, which it is. And that is one way, one major way that we can help those people on the call is getting your estate plan together, thinking about how you want to transfer any land that you may own, your business, succession planning, that whole thing. If something were to happen and you weren't here, that includes thinking about putting your land in a trust, avoiding probate, making that decision because it's an individualized decision. What's best for you? And so that's the big thing that people think about, and that's absolutely true. And we can absolutely help you with that. The other thing is, what if you, I call it the sleeping beauty scenario, right? You haven't passed on, right? You're still here, but you're not up, you're not moving around. And so what that's called is incapacity planning. So you get to a point that, say you have an accident, you're in the hospital, you're out of commission. Who's talking to the financial institutions? Do you have a power of attorney? Do you have a medical power of attorney, directive to physicians, all those sorts of things? So on a broad scale, that's what I do, and that's how my field as an individual can help the people on the call. On a smaller, more micro level, me as an individual and my solo practice, I believe in education. If you're a client of mine, I want you to walk out of the door being educated about what we're doing, knowing why this is important, and knowing what you do. So there's a lot of interaction being a boutique, smaller firm. The number that you get when you call me, that's the same number my mother calls me on, right? Some of these big guys, they're just going to churn you out. Here's a will. I've seen it where people set up a trust and didn't even tell people that they needed to fund the trust, right? So dealing with me and my practice, you do get that one-on-one interaction. So on a big level, working with me, you get your stuff together for when you leave and making sure your family's taken care of. And also if something happens to you and you just need someone to bridge that gap, and then you also get that personal interaction.
All right. Well, man, I know it's so important. It's probably what you do is so important, man, and it's probably the thing that ends up at the bottom of so many of our to-do lists until it is important. You know?
Right.
It's important, but not urgent until it's urgent, and then usually that's too late. So
sometimes it's too late, right?
yeah. So my next question is, what is the process to get started utilizing some of your services? What's that best way for a person who's a novice, who's afraid, who's just not sure if they want to move forward, but need to move forward?
Yeah, well, I was a teacher in a past life. Like I actually taught middle school, so that's probably another reason why education is important to me. The first step would be to just contact me, okay, and let's set up a consultation. And if they mention that they were on this call, it'll be a free consultation. So set up a free consultation with me because it is an individualized plan. So I need to know, what are your goals? What do you have? What would you like to have done with it? And let's see how we can work that within the confines of law and set a plan together for you. So contact me, email me at ld@ldthomaslaw.com. And you're going to mail this out. So if people want to go back, they can listen. But it's ld@ldthomaslaw.com. Send me an email. Tell me you were on this call and you want to set up a consultation. And we can sit down. We can talk. We can do a Zoom. We can do a phone conference, whatever. I'm easygoing that way. And then we'll have that conversation. The first step is to have the conversation.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll definitely, just as LD mentioned, we will make sure that everyone contact information that you see on the panelists here tonight, so on the screen here tonight. So we'll get that out to y'all along with the recording. So if you were able to write that down, great. If not, we're going to send this recording back out to you along with a contact list to make it as easy as possible for you to reach out to LD Thomas Esquire. I got that Esquire in there this time, bro. All right. All right. So we're going to keep things moving. I've got a few questions for you, Joshua. Let's see. What are the one or two ways a farmer can benefit from farm service agency?
Well, thank you for that, Mr. Ross. And, of course, thank you for being here and allowing us to come back and share the information again. When you think about farm service agency, I think it's important to think of our agency, I think, in two separate tones almost. One is our farm loan side, and the other is our safety net side. So on our farm loan side, so we offer farms and loans to ranchers, farmers they can finance if they want to get started with a farm, if they want to expand their farm, or even just maintaining a farm. And so for that, we have operating loans, and those can cover livestock and equipment purchases. And on the other side, we offer ownership loans. And so if you need to purchase a farm, if you're getting started, or if you may want to expand a farm, we have loans that are available for that. If you need to construct or do any improvements to any buildings on the farm, we can assist with that as well. Our operating loans, they can go up to $400,000, and then ownership loans can go up to $600,000. And so there are some options there for producers. And a lot of people aren't aware that we also offer youth loans. And so for youth that are participating in 4-H or FFA, and they're doing agricultural project, we can loan them up to $5,000 for certain types of projects. And so that's something that's there as well to help those youth that are engaged in those organizations to be able to do their projects and hopefully turn them to some income producing things that they can do and hopefully stick with as they grow. We have farm loan teams that are located across the state. As with most government farms, they can feel a little bit intimidating when you start to work with them. But our farm loan teams across the state and across the nation, they can sit down and work with applicants and making sure that they're filling applications out correctly and answering any questions that they may have. And even after applicants submit loan applications, if there are some things that are missing, they can reach back out to them and let them know what's missing to kind of get them on the right path to making hopefully a good determination on those applications. When you look at the other side of things with our safety net program, so that safety net consists of our conservation, our price support, and disaster programs. And so when we have challenging times like the current COVID pandemic, or we have a market downturn or natural disasters, all of these programs are kind of there to help address what the need might be for producers from what they experience. So when you look at our conservation programs, our continuous CRP program, for instance, offers contracts to producers so that if they do operate on some land that might be environmentally sensitive, might be highly erodible, or might be a wetland, they can probably work with them and with us to develop some conservation plans, get them rolled into their program. Would also receive a rental payment for doing certain practices on their property. From a price support standpoint, our marketing assistance loans that we offer, they can provide some interim financing for producers to help them meet some cash flow needs until they can get to a price where the market is up, where they can sell their commodities at a profit. Our disaster programs. Right now, of course, the entire state is dealing with severe drought conditions. So we offer the livestock forage disaster program. So for producers that graze livestock on acres across the state, they might be able to get financial assistance through that program. So right now in Texas, we have 232 counties of the 254 that we have that are eligible for that program. And so for producers, again, the cost of hay has gone up, the cost of a lot of the feed and supplemental things that producers may do have gone up. And so this program helps to offset some of those costs. The other day, we put out a release on our emergency assistance for livestock, honeybees, and farm-raised fish program. And so through that program, producers, if they are having losses of any feed or grazing losses that aren't due to drought, that's covered. So in situations we may have a flood or something like that. But for drought purposes, that program can provide assistance for the additional cost of transporting water to livestock if tanks start to dry up. It can cover the above normal cost of transporting feed to livestock, and even the cost of transporting livestock to other forage or grazing acres that producers may have. And so, again, that's another program that's there to assist with drought. Again, we've had a lot of wildfires across the state this year. And so the emergency conservation program, it helps farmers and ranchers kind of repair some of the damage to farmland that they may have. And so if they have fencing that got destroyed, that's typically an eligible thing that producers can go through their program to have replaced. And then we offer our NAP program, and a lot of producers may not be aware of this as well. The NAP program, it provides insurance type coverage for crops that you can't typically get crop insurance for. So grasses, greens, tomatoes, and things of that nature. When it comes to drought, this program for producers that do have an active policy for grazing acres, it may be able to provide some assistance for producers that have active coverage for the program year. And so that's another program that's there for producers. It's important to note that with that NAP program and with the emergency conservation program and others that we offer for social disadvantaged or historically underserved producers, additional limited resource, beginning and eligible veteran farmers and ranchers, a lot of these programs have different provisions that are included within them. And so like for NAP, the service fee can be waived. On other programs, they come with higher payment factors for those eligible producers. And so there's a lot that we potentially have to offer producers. And, that may sound like a lot in one or two ways to kind of summarize it up. But again, it just goes into, there's a lot that FSA does have that's available to producers, but it's all in trying to figure out, what your needs are, and then how can we help to address those needs.
Man, like that's a lot of service. So there's really no excuse for us to. What you basically saying, we got to quit being shy, pick up that phone and ask for what you need. It's our taxpayer dollars, y'all. That's got these services. That's the reason why these services exist. So I'm going to kind of segue in the same way that I just asked with LD. What is the process to get started for someone who has never worked with FSA before, who's a novice, or maybe someone who has worked with FSA, but kind of got discouraged and kind of needs to get back on the saddle?
So one of the main things, especially from a farm program or a safety net standpoint, one of the main things that producers need to do is get a farm number. That farm number is pretty much that door into accessing programs, not only through FSA, but also NRCS as well. And so to get a farm number, producers, they can go into their local office. Now, some of the typical documents that they'll need will be a copy of a deed. If they're operating on a lease agreement, then we'll need a copy of that lease agreement. We also have different provisions for producers that may operate on heirs property, to where they can provide alternative documentation to actually be declared the operator on a farm, or to get a farm number through our agency. And then there'll be some other information that the local office will get with you to complete different eligibility forms. Again, you have to be generally meet our payment eligibility provisions to make sure that generally you are the person that's operating the farm and doing the labor and management on it. But you also have to be in compliance with our adjusted gross income provisions, which for most producers that doesn't become an issue for, but that is something that producers have to be in compliance with. They also have to be in compliance with highly erodible land and wetland conservation provisions. So making sure that they aren't disturbing any lands that shouldn't be disturbed, unless they've already worked with NRCS to get some approved plans to do that type of work. And so generally, it's always the first start is kind of going into your county office, getting that farm number established, getting your information in our database. And so that'll allow you to access those important programs that we offer through FSA and NRCS, but it also helps them to be eligible and get signed up, hopefully to vote and participate in our county committee elections. We spoke about a little while ago before the call started, but our county committees are responsible for administering a lot of our farm programs at our county level. And we've probably heard a lot, some of us probably have, about some of the concerns that have been raised over the years with county committees and how they do engage with minority producers. And so it's no better way sometimes to be able to change a system than from being within the system. And so right now we are in our county committee election seat nomination season. So if you or anyone is interested in serving on a county committee, you can call your local FSA office and see what you need to do to get signed up, or if your area is up for election this year. That nomination period closes on this coming Monday on August the 1st. And so again, that's another way for you to kind of get involved with the FSA, be able to kind of learn a lot more about our programs and administering those programs, but also being able to be a voice and have us be able to have that fair representation that we need in a lot of our communities, and being able to get a lot of assistance delivered through our programs. And then one other thing, and being able to kind of keep up with what's going on, because that's another thing. Sometimes if you don't come into the office, or if it's been a while before you've been engaged with us, sometimes it's hard to know exactly what's going on. So generally all of our county offices across the state, we send newsletters out to producers at least once a month with some important updates on what's going on locally with our programs and with NRCS. And so producers, they can go online at farmers.gov to actually subscribe to receive those newsletters. And we also send text alerts. So if you want to get text messages about some of those important things, they can text TX in their county name to FSA Now to sign up for those. And so, and then sometimes on the other side of the coin, we do get asked, well, what about producers that don't have email? The best thing you can do is that if you don't have email, but you want to know what's going on, either drop into your office or call the office. Sometimes those are the two most important ways to find out kind of what's going on if you don't have email or you don't receive those newsletters. Again, we try to do as much outreach as we can and work through our publications to get the word out to producers about what's going on. But sometimes there does end up kind of being that information gap that's there. And so it sometimes is good for producers. Again, if it's been a while since you've been in, or there may be something that you're dealing with on the farm and you want to see how we may be able to assist, just give us a call. And if there's something that we can do, if there's a program sign up going on, we'll let you know and help you get signed up for those programs.
Wow, great info. Yeah, and I know we just talked kind of off the air here about, some opportunities to be at the table, to be a part of the county committee. So I do encourage y'all out there, we got to be at the table, to not only, to know what's going on, but to have a voice. Texas is a big place. We'd love to be in every county, office, but we can't do it. So we do encourage you to reach out and, sign up for those newsletters at FSA and make sure that you, reach out, sign up to be at the table, be in the know. So I'm going to shift gears and kind of switch this thing up, Tanisha, since I've been asking kind of the same questions. I'm going to take it a different direction and feel free. Oh, we got someone. Is that Justin or is that Felicia?
That's Felicia Bell.
All right. I was gonna give Tanisha the rest of the night, but we're gonna leave a little room for you too. So thank you for jumping on. But Tanisha, I'm gonna tee you up here first with a question that says, what are some of the common missteps you see farmers take while utilizing NRCS and other agency programs out there? And don't be soft. Talk to us. We need you to give us that real talk.
I want to say thank you for the opportunity, and I'm so glad to be able to be available to do this. And I'm finna be open and honest. The biggest thing, preparation and planning. Preparation and planning, it goes a long way when you step into these offices. Working hand in hand with FSA and having your farm registered. Well, let's go back one before that. Let's talk about being confident when you come into the office. Your communication, not transparency and not holding back. A lot of people, we have to dig for information. What do you think about this? Or it's a lot of digging, and that takes up a lot of time, valuable time. So part of the planning is knowing what you want to do before you even come into the office, having an objective, a goal. We don't want to set those goals for you. We want you to have all that planned out before you even get here, or at least a clue, because a lot of people come in and they want to just go straight to money. They don't want to do any planning. they want to say, hey, I heard y'all had money for this. And I was like, wait, back up. Let's go back to planning first. And a lot of times they don't want to do that. I heard y'all had some money. I want some money. I want it now. I heard y'all got all this money. And so the biggest thing is, like Josh said, having your farm registered, and LD, I'm sorry, I apologize for that. But this planning, we have a lot of people that come in and it's multiple owners and they don't have the authority, or they're basically locked out from doing anything because they're not the owner, they're not the operator, they don't have a lease agreement, they don't have anything. And proper estate planning, oh my gosh, it is very important. I've actually had to deal with some landowners with that. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I can tell you to go to the county appraisal office and get this information, or find a deed here, or do this. But it's gonna take that legwork to get that done. And it's gonna be worse if nothing has been started. So the other thing is, taking the time, this is also in preparation and planning, taking the time to actually go visit a thriving farm or operation that's already up and going, before you come in, to even know that this is what you want to do. Because a lot of people say, well, this is what my daddy did and this is what my family did. But if you're in control of that operation, is this something that you want to, or is this something that you want to do long term, short term? I mean, cost. There's a cost to everything that you do. And if we be real about it, the government is not going to pay the cost for everything. I mean, a lot of people come in and say, y'all going to pay 100% of this? No, we're not. And even the payment rate that we pay, it may not, you're going to say, well, that's nothing. It's just a little bit of help. And that's what I explain to people. We're not going to pay. There's sometimes you may get a windfall and to pay for everything, but you need to come in with an open mind, knowing that there's a cost associated to anything that you want to implement on your land. And the other thing is, be specific about requesting practice specifications. If you're coming in and you know you want to plant grass, ask for the specifications. And that's just an example. Or if you want to clear brush, ask for the specification so that you know upfront, before you even get into a contract, what all it's going to entail to implement those practices. Another one for you, go ahead and get estimates upfront. If you know you want to come in, you want to do brush work, contact a contractor, 3 at least, and get proper estimates. Get estimates of how much this is going to cost you per acre, per hour, or any of those things would help. Because once you get in a contract with us, you're in a contract. And a lot of people don't read the fine print. They rely on the conservationist or whoever's explaining that documentation to them at that time. They're relying on them to sit there and tell them. And I spend an hour and a half, but I see people get glazed over, and it's like, it's too much information. They're just happy they have a contract and they just go ahead and sign. Well, after they sign, then we're at a point where, oh, this is too much. I can't do this. Or I don't have the money to do this, or how am I going to get this implemented? The contractor said he's going to be, all of those things is part of the preparation and the planning process. So those are some little nuggets. I scaled this all the way back down, and Josh, you kind of helped me out, and LD, you helped me out, because we see this a lot with people coming in, and I know it's frustrating for them because they want to be at a particular, they feel like they need to be at a particular stage, but all this works hand in hand with planning and preparation. So don't expect from me or anybody else to know what you want if you don't know for yourself. I mean, we can plan it all day, but you have to implement it. And a lot of times people say, I asked one landowner a question. I said, well, why is it that you want this practice implemented? Oh, that's what they told me I needed. You haven't taken the time to do your research to even know that this is something that you want to do, but just because you got money to do so, I mean, once that plan is implemented, we're leaving you with it. So you have to maintain it. You have to know the cost of fertilizer, the cost of weed control, the cost of all of these things, because it's gonna come back in your management. And if you don't manage it, then what's the use in you throwing money away, basically? And so that's upfront and personal.
Okay.
But I really want people to come in confident. And if you're not, don't be hesitant on asking questions. There's no dumb question. That's what my daddy always told me. So ask all the questions you want. It's time out for being behind the scenes and saying, well, they don't want us to do this. No, go in there and ask your questions and be confident and get an answer. Don't leave until you get an answer. They say, well, you asked too many questions. I'm going to ask all the questions until I get an understanding. And so I really, really want us to thrive in conservation, but I want us to be prepared when we come into these offices and not just come open-handed with nothing. Come with something, come with a 3-year, a long-term, short-term plan, come with something so that we can help you.
Good stuff. And I know we had actually a new farmer that Tanisha and I are working with, and he decided he wanted to become a hemp farmer. So I get a text that says, hey, how much, do you know anybody who's going to wipe out these 7 acres? And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You know, so yeah, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. We get that, but reach out, in those cases, reach out to the NRCS, because sometimes, just like, you know, what you heard here, you know, with erosion, things like that, you want to get that information up front versus wiping out 7 acres of forest land and dealing with the ramifications later. So definitely points well taken, which segues us very well into Felicia Bell, who did a great presentation a few months back on designing your farm business, and a lot of what you're hearing tonight, the planning part of it. So I'm going to ask you this question, Felicia, and thank you so much for rushing home and jumping on your computer there to be with us. What are the 1 or 2 biggest takeaways each farmer should consider when designing their farm business?
Yes, sir. First and foremost, I would like to thank you, Mr. Ross, for the invitation back. Glad to see the other panelists here and glad to be here. So one of those 1 or 2 biggest takeaways is, first, a family meeting. So whomever is involved in your farm, regardless if it's a mother, grandparents, husband, children, it doesn't matter. It could be a niece, nephew, whomever is involved in your business, running your farm, helping you, they need to be at the meeting. It's not about just the person that's paying the bills, but the ones that are actually implementing. So first and foremost, a family meeting to decide on what are we going to farm. Mrs. Mitchell was saying the key things. We got to decide on what we want to do first, not what people tell us to do, but what we can do. And first and foremost, what our land can do. So we always want the biggest, greatest, trendiest, but if the land cannot produce what you're trying or what someone told you to do, it's not going to work regardless of how much money you dump into it. The second thing I would say on that question is that lean canvas business model, that 1-pager business plan. And as I said earlier, it is an internal document. That's what it is. So after your family meeting, you're going to your separate spaces and then you're filling it out. Each person is filling it out. And then you come back together and compile one business plan, the one pager, but that one pager should be able to create a 20, 30 pager business plan that's going to the bank or going to FSA. Whomever you're going to be seeking the funding from, that one pager should have everything you need. What that entails is clear thinking and focusing. That's what the questions ask you on this one page document. It gets you to focus, no fluff. Get to the point. So those are the 1 and 2 biggest takeaways for setting up a good farm plan.
Oh man, good stuff. So I'm going to ask you this only because every time I look up, you're either in Florida or Mississippi, or I know you're coming up here in Texas here shortly, and I'll have you share a little bit about that. But is there any general advice that you would give a small farmer based on what you're seeing out there in the ag world today, based on some of your many travels out there?
Yes, sir. Well, I mainly work with small, medium-sized farms. And so my advice is diversify. Everyone wants to be, you know, the new kid on the block and so forth, but they're still utilizing maybe 1980s way of thinking and 1980s methodology. And so to be that new person on the block, you got to really plan. It's not hit and miss. Farming is not hit and miss. You have to plan, or what they say, you're plan to fail. And so the money is involved. I really don't understand how our farmers can just jump into something without planning, because they're spending money when they jump into it. And that's what I don't understand, but it's not meant for me to understand. It's for me to assist them to not keep doing that and so forth. So my general advice to all small and medium-sized farmers is to diversify. What I mean by that is we breaking it on down to that square foot. How much are you making a square foot? And that's regardless if you're doing vegetable production, orchard, herb production, livestock. How much money are you making? So it's getting down to the penny. I definitely like helping people do that for its pricing their product. So Mr. Ross, that's one of my topics at the Texas conference is pricing the product, but we getting down to the penny. It has to be that way. We're running a business. We're not, out here just playing games. We're running a business, and when you run a business, you have to do the appropriate organization as well as the financial organization. So all of that is very important. But again, it's just like Ms. Mitchell said, it's planning. That is the best advice I could give people and give our small farmers, because sad to say, majority of them are not set up as a business. So now they're taking on all of this liability and risk, which is like a no-no.
Wow,
but that's a whole other conversation.
No, that's perfect. That's a perfect because really, as an organization, that's what we're leaning into is business development. As a farmer, you're in business, and that's what kind of the common theme that I heard tonight. Start looking at yourself is in your family's business as you incorporated, you LLC, whatever you want to call it. It's a business. So that's how we want to start viewing things. So it looks like we got a couple questions here. Before I get to the question, Felicia, I know you are presenting, is it next week in San Marcos? Is that correct?
Yes, sir. It's August 7th through the 9th in San Marcos.
Okay,
yes,
what
sir.
I'll do, I'll make sure everyone, I get you a link out to that conference. I think it's a 3-4 day conference. I forget the name of it. It's in our newsletter. Southern LD, are you? I think you're presenting.
Southern Family Farm, yes, sir.
Southern Family Farmers and Food Service Conference.
There you go.
And so I'll be there as well on that Monday.
All right. So we'll get you guys some information out on that as well. I'm gonna jump in here to this question. Let's see. It says, do you have to submit the election for the county committee in person, or can it be emailed or faxed? So that's for you, Joshua.
Yes, sir. So it can be any of those. You can submit it in person, or you can submit it by email, you can fax it in, or you can mail it to your local office. Now, it is important to note that if you email or fax it in, it has to be in by the deadline of Monday. So by close of business Monday, they need it, but they will still need the original form completed by the nominee before it can be actually considered an official nominee for the ballot. And so you can email or fax it in just to meet that deadline, but you'll still need to get the original copy to your local FSA office so that way it meets that deadline. But any of those ways, email, fax, in person, or drop it in the mail and have it postmarked by Monday.
All right. And I believe this next question is for you, Tanisha. It says, where can I find a list of thriving farms to visit if there is one? Thank you for your time.
I would say it depends on which county, where your location. It may not be a list. It may be some fellow operators or landowners. You may have to just get out there and beat the bushes and ask for some of, just ask questions about different people in your community or in your area that are already doing some of these practices. And Texas Small Farms and Ranchers would be a good place to start as well.
Yes, indeed. Reach on out. We probably know someone in your area, that's for sure. We don't know someone, we know someone who knows someone. All right. Well, I think, let's see if there's any more questions in here. Last call, you can raise your hand if you'd like. Going once. All right, going twice. All right, we're gonna let our panelists get back home to their families and finish out their evening. But thank you so much powerful information packed into just an hour here. So truly appreciate each and every one of you. For those who are watching, again, we'll be sure to get you a contact list for each of the faces that you see on here. We'll get you some information on the upcoming conference as well. We'll even get you some information on the, I see a raised hand here, on the one pager that Miss Felicia Bell was talking about. And it's my parents, so I better take this one. Let's see. I'll get in trouble if I don't take this one. So let me jump them off. All right, there you go. It's your floor, but I think you're muted.
This is Wade and Anita Ross, Mama, Papa Ross, whatever you want to call us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're fantastic. I wish I could hug each and every one of you. I think Papa Ross, you too, right? You want to do some hugging?
That's right.
All right. Thank you so much for a beautiful presentation. It was wonderful. God bless you all.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, well, I can't end it up any better than that. So appreciate each and every one of you. Check your newsletters for our next event. Should be probably the last week in August. So stay tuned, and thank everybody so much for joining us. LD Thomas Esquire, we got Joshua Coleman, Tanisha Mitchell, and Felicia Bell. Thank you so much. And until next time, take care and God bless.